Who do you think is the most extraordinary scientific mind that that humanity has produced?
There is no contest. Isaac Newton. Nobody comes close.
Explain why.
Working alone, discovers the laws of motion. Then he discovers the law of gravity, universal law of gravitation. Oh, and then someone asks, Ike, or I don't know what they call him, Ike, why do your planets orbit in this shape, ellipses, ovals, rather than perfect circle? It's, I don't know, I'll get back to you. And he goes home, and he comes back, I finally have my answer. And they say, well, Isaac, how did you do that? Well, I had to invent integral and differential calculus to answer that question. He then discovers the laws of optics, deducing that white light is composed of colors, because you could take those same colors, recombine them, and get white light, which freaked out artists of the day. So he does all of this. Then he turns 26. You tell me, okay? And in one of his books called Optics, he has a section in the back called Queries. I love that, and in my podcast, we have a variant of the podcast called Cosmic Queries, and I'm inspired by Isaac Newton in this regard. It's just called Queries, and these are questions just spilled off his plate, crumbs that he didn't have time to answer, he never got around to it, just some questions. Let me just tack them onto the back of the book. One of them is, I wonder if the stars of the night sky are just like our sun, but just much, much farther away. I'm saying when you see someone, because great scientists are marked not by their answers, but by how great their questions are. Because not all questions are made equal. Here's a question. At what temperature does the number 7 melt? That's a completely meaningless question, even though the nouns and verbs are in the right order and it has a question mark. Imagine how many people have asked those kinds of questions before and spent their whole life trying to answer them. We haven't heard of any of them because they were barking up the wrong tree. Because unlike in the arts, where your creativity can be put to page, and let's take Van Gogh's Starry Night, for example. If Van Gogh didn't paint that, no one ever for the rest of the history of the world will ever paint that. If Beethoven didn't write his Ninth Symphony, no one else is ever going to write it. They're unique expressions of unique individual creativity. Okay. Whereas in science, it's nature that's the ultimate judge, jury, and executioner of an idea. So Newton was brilliant, and he did all that alone before he was 26. Somebody would have come up with the same thing, or some combination of people. So the rules are a little different in this regard. So another question that would make no sense is, what kind of cheese is the moon made out of? Let's assume that was your big question. You would design experiments to fly to the moon to check, is it camembert, is it blue cheese, and you're just wasting everybody's time, but you don't know it at the time. His questions, I'm looking at it 200 years in the future of those questions. I say, this man is on every single question. And he has this astonishing quote. I will mangle it only a little bit. He says, sometimes I feel as a child on the ocean shore picking up one pebble over another because it's shinier. Yet the great ocean of undiscovered truths lay before me. That's Isaac Newton. Humbled by what he knew he didn't yet know, yet what he figured out transformed us all. And I got in big trouble one time. On this day, long ago, a child was born who by the age of 30 would transform civilization. Happy birthday, Isaac Newton. Born 1642.
Newton never existed and his work never replicated by anyone else ever. How different would our world be?
Ooh, we would not have the Industrial Revolution. We would still be with horse and buggy. He laid the foundation of all major science that would follow in the 150 years after. So, but the good thing about science is that as brilliant as he was, all of that would have still been discovered given some time that followed it. Maybe not by the same person, because his titanic genius did it all. Spread it, share the love. 50 people perhaps, 50 different physicists, would have eventually come up with all of his laws and all of his ideas. So we're in good hands with the methods and tools of science and those who invoke them to decode the universe.
Yes. Some parts of Newton's work have been superseded by Einstein's. How is Newton's work still useful in the sciences and engineering?
Great question. So you can say superseded, but it's not entirely accurate. The better way to think about it is Isaac Newton's laws of gravity and motion apply to every kind of motion he had seen. You know, a fast-running horse, the moon orbit around Earth, Earth orbit around the sun. And only when you get to really high speeds, really strong gravities, do you find that Newton's laws break down. They no longer describe nature accurately. And you needed Einstein's equations of motion. Einstein's special theory of relativity, that's his theory of motion. And Einstein's general theory of relativity, that's the modern theory of gravity. And what you find is that here's this pocket of the universe described by Isaac Newton, and Einstein's theories describe a bigger sampling of the universe, and within which you find Newton's laws. So no, it didn't supplant Newton. It enclosed Newton in a bigger, deeper understanding of the universe. We went to the moon using just Newton's laws. They were sufficient. But you want to probe the atom, you want to probe the early universe, the Big Bang itself, you need Einstein.